Welcome to episode 104 of Chew on This Nerd Unite podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
So we have a very special episode for you, but before that, I'd like to remind everyone out there that we are on patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Chew on This podcast, where you can go and become part of the Chew crew for as little as $1 a month, and you can get all sorts of different rewards. So that's patreon.com/Chew on This podcast.
And once again, we are still trying to get Wawa to come out here to the West Coast. If you don't know what Wawa is, if you live on the East Coast or in the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, you know what Wawa is. It's a gas station. It's a place where you get sandwiches really late at night. And in California, where you get munchies late at night sometimes for some reason, this would be a good place to do it. So once again, hashtag West Coast Wawa. Wawa, come out to the West Coast so I can get your sandwiches at 12:30 at midnight for no particular reason.
You know, it's interesting in Wawa, they have two W's, and that kind of means something tonight. Because
yes,
that
was a good segue.
Yeah,
that was a pretty good segue.
No shit, and you just
I
fucking ruined it. It's like Sheldon ruining a good joke.
I was actually so surprised that I had to ruin it.
But anyway, we have a very special podcast tonight because we got to talk to Christie Marston, who is the granddaughter of William Marston, who was the creator. Him and his wife were the creator of Wonder Woman, and of course, the lie detector tests and all that good stuff. And so, last week we did a mini review of Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, and where we just kind of gushed about the movie a little bit, and then stuff started trickling out during the week that a lot of what happened in that movie was not true. And so that, well,
I would say
you go ahead and kind of say what you were, how you kind of.
Well, so we gushed about the movie, like you said, and when you watch a movie and it's based on a true story in Hollywood, they're going to take liberties with things. Like A Beautiful Mind. That guy never imagined that he worked for the CIA, which was kind of disheartening, but didn't really hurt anybody.
Yeah,
I guess. Like Braveheart is kind of based on a true story, but you kind of never thought that William Wallace impregnated a French princess. So you take liberties with things, but come to find out that all the major parts of this movie, even what they marketed, was like fucking dead wrong.
That's crazy.
Like we figured she did not, Olive did not dress up at an S&M back door place where she dressed up basically like Wonder Woman. We could figure out that was like Hollywood-esque. Yeah. What we didn't figure out was that the actual creation, when they tell you how Wonder Woman is created, was completely fucking wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one thing that you were supposed to get right. So on top of the relationship between the three people and the creation of Wonder Woman, it was basically all fabricated. It's like a giant game of telephone where you actually could have picked up a telephone and said, hey, is any of this stuff real? And you decide to say, no, fuck it, I'm going to lose at the game of telephone anyway. And that's what happened. And then I read the articles and was completely blown away by how we just released this podcast and we're gushing about a movie that is completely fucking fake. And I feel like assholes. So I reached out to Christy over Twitter and Facebook and said, hey, we just saw this movie. Gotta tell you the truth. We actually liked it, and we're completely blown away about how much was wrong in this movie. The fact that they got the actual creation of Wonder Woman wrong is beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
That was the only thing you were supposed to probably get right, considering all your marketing material, and you fucking got that wrong. How the fuck is that possible?
I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. And like you said,
I'm doing a recipe. I read a recipe for turkey, and the first thing they tell me to buy is a fucking ham. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I mean, the one thing you had one job.
Yeah, you had one job. When you use the word Wonder Woman in your fucking title of the movie, get the fucking origin right.
Right.
Buy a ham. That's basically what we got.
Yeah.
So this interview is great. Christie is we could talk to her forever.
So
She
cool.
seems like one of those people, and the stories about her grandmother. If they stayed up till midnight talking, we probably could have stayed up with all of them to like 4 a.m. till the sun came up.
Yeah.
This is just a really fun conversation. Yeah, we hope you enjoy this interview as much as we did.
Yeah. Everyone out there. Yeah. I mean, definitely. We found some really good nuggets about her life and about her grandfathers and her grandmothers, and really interesting stories. And we pick apart this movie.
Oh, and now that you're listening to the intro, and Christy might be listening too. Christy, we're not going to stop until we get Patty Jenkins' cell phone number.
He's dead serious.
I will
about that.
I will create a hashtag somehow and just attach it to everything. The same thing we're doing for Wawa with hashtag West Coast Wawa. There'll be a hashtag Christy, give me the cell phone number.
Yeah.
Like that.
Hashtag Petty Jason's number. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, everybody enjoy this little conversation that we have with Christie Marston, who is the granddaughter of the creators of Wonder Woman. Enjoy. Marston was a psychologist, an inventor, and a writer. And he was educated at Harvard. He taught at the American University of Washington, D.C., as well as Tufts University in Massachusetts. He also worked, this is kind of interesting, he worked at Universal Studios as director of public services. I had no idea. And he and his wife, Elizabeth, were the creators of the lie detector test. But Marston and his wife are mostly known for the creation of the immensely popular Wonder Woman comic, which debuted in October of 1941, I believe.
Which is actually on this date.
Yeah,
there you go.
Crazy. So we are extremely privileged to have with us today Christie Marston, the granddaughter of the creators of Wonder Woman. Welcome, finally, Christie.
Thank you. I feel like I know you well already.
45 minutes.
We had some slight audio issues. If in case you haven't noticed, Krista, we don't make any money off of this off of this podcast.
One didn't think so. No, I'm teasing you.
So, no, I don't even know if that would have helped, because nowhere did it say, hey, that browser that you were using for the past year, stop using it.
It requires cash. So
yeah.
No, it doesn't even. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you. So, and it's the worst troubleshooting website page I've ever seen for a website.
It was amusing in its own way, since I wasn't the one fighting with it. You were.
So
I've been on the other end of that, and it's quite horrible.
I will say, without even starting the podcast, I will say Christie Marston has the best patience ever. 40 minutes.
I dare say
40 minutes.
Like Wonder Woman-esque patience.
Yeah, I would if I ran into some crap and I needed to go. I was like, "Hey, Christy, can you drive me to the DMV and wait 6 hours for me?" I'd be okay with it.
No, at that one I'd be like, "No, but I'll drop you."
Pick me up 6 hours later, in case Zencaster is the one behind the desk.
Yes.
So right from the start, let's dive right into it. Me and BJ did a podcast last week, and we had, I believe it was last week. We did a mini review of Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, and we didn't give it actually stars or anything, but we said it was a must watch, not knowing that how untruthful the movie was. Even when you see based on a true story in Hollywood, it's kind of loosely based. Like I told you, Christy, nobody thought that William Wallace actually impregnated a French princess. So in Braveheart, I'm talking about. So,
Right.
we thought, in the movie, I didn't think like, Olive came out in something that was basically Wonder Woman,
Right.
Wonder Woman's outfit in like some S&M back door, back
Yeah.
room. So I
Right.
didn't think that happened, but I thought the love story was true and all the other stuff was true. I thought that scene was kind of Hollywood-esque, but what's crazy is that it seems like they got none of it true. Like even down to like how Wonder Woman is created was completely wrong. So
Bingo.
of
Yeah.
a movie
That's
that's
the one that drives me crazy.
the
Yes.
one that's the way that they sold the movie was learn about the creation of Wonder Woman, and that's the thing they fucked up.
Yeah.
That's
And
the thing
it's
they decided to fabricate.
the
So
incredible true story. Right.
right. So even that minor, because the movie, like we said on the podcast before, it was basically more about a love story about between these three people and psychology and all that other stuff. And Wonder Woman was just kind of a backdrop to that, but they sold it as the story of Wonder Woman's creation, and that's the part they screwed up too.
Yes, it
So,
is.
without me stealing your thunder, can you please give us the truth so all of our listeners know exactly how Wonder Woman created? I mean, me and BJ already know because, I mean, we have a nerd podcast, so of course we would know. But just let our listeners know how the true story of how Wonder Woman was created, and then we'll go into the bullshit of the movie.
Right. Well, it really was very, very simple. My grandfather was a psych advisor for the company that became DC Comics. And Charlie Gaines, who was the head honcho, just jokingly said, "Hey, Bill, why don't you write a comic?" Since he already had all the right attitude and it was working successfully in all the rest of the comics. And he went home and spoke with my grandmother about it that evening, and she said, "Well, yeah, go ahead and write one, but it's going to have to be a woman. There are enough boys out there already." So, it's like that was Wonder Woman as opposed to the movie version where he comes up with like the entire thing and he's going to like pitch it to a comic book company. And this person in there that is supposed to be Elizabeth Marston is like, "Oh no, nobody will ever publish that."
Right. When in reality, it was her that said, make it a woman.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
that's
let me throw something in on that. There are people who kept like kind of arguing the movie, saying, "Oh, but this is a great feminist movie." It is like incredibly horrible for feminists because it took two very, very intelligent, incredible women and turned them into like nothing. It was like, oh my God, what they did to Graham it wasn't just like the whole business of messing with the who came up with the idea for Wonder Woman. The character as she's portrayed couldn't be further from reality.
well.
If
Tell
you
us.
think about Wonder Woman, then you've got my grandmother down because Graham was the role model. So that super positive, go get 'em attitude, never take no for an answer, always be cheerful, always be positive, and always get it done. That was Graham.
That's awesome.
Was she? Was your? And I have to ask this because, of course, they got so many things wrong. Was your grandmother British too, or?
Well, she was born on the Isle of Man,
Oh,
Okay. So
but
that's true.
she
So they
came
got that right.
over sort of. Certainly not accented, but so what? But she came over. I think she was probably 5 when they came and lived in the U.S. They used to go back and forth on a steamer every year. They'd come over for like the summertime or whatever. But when they finally moved there, I think she was 5. Her father was, wait, let me get this one right. And I totally know the answer on this. Anyhow, I'm trying to remember where Holloway was from. But one way or the other, she wasn't accented, but was she was very precise in her speech. Um, would would never bother using the kind of language as shown in the film or the kind of language that I use half the time
Oh, that we
because
use all the time.
yes, that we use all the time. primarily because she considered it pretty much lazy. She said, there are more appropriate words to use them. It's like, yeah, but I'd rather be lazy right now, thanks.
Especially when you're talking about Zencaster.
Yeah, we're not going there. Now, don't pick on them. They're working
They're
now.
trying.
Yeah,
They're trying
working
really
now,
hard.
fingers crossed. So she actually didn't even have a British accent or an accent of
No, she didn't.
Jesus.
But that's, that's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, so what? And the same thing with like their whole imagined sex life. It's like, oh, so what? But meanwhile, you chopped this amazing woman into nothing. And don't you dare call it a feminist film when you threw her under the truck like that.
Well, that's an interesting thing you brought up too, the whole sex thing, because that was a major part of the movie. I felt. Again, not knowing the history of it, it was done tastefully.
Yeah.
Again, if you didn't know that if this was just a normal story with no historical ties to it, it'd be a pretty decent movie. But
which is what they should have done.
Well, yeah, I mean, they should have just made up a movie instead of attaching Wonder Woman.
Well, they wouldn't even have to make it up. There are plenty of people. The people in the poly world were really upset to find out that it wasn't true. I was going back and forth with a lot of people, like all over the place. And they were so happy to have this movie come out, and then to find out it wasn't true, they felt like, well, but meanwhile, if it had gone out knowing that it was imaginary, they could have stayed happy.
Right, that's true.
It's like, show people in positive light.
So that part wasn't even
true at all. Taken away. No, and Graham and Dots weren't lovers. It's like that's the thing that's bad, because it was almost as if I was stuck in that spot of, am I really going to open my mouth about this? Because I don't want to dash people's like dreams and happiness and all this kind of thing. If they just had not done the bit about Wonder Woman's origins, I probably would have just let it go by, because as far as I'm concerned, like, sex is like, and what if they were gay? And what if there was a big poly thing? So there wasn't, but it doesn't make any real difference in the world. But from the point of view of taking credit away from Graham, it's just like so totally unacceptable. And they made both women out to be like less than intriguing humans. It's like, okay, their sex life may have intrigued people, but they weren't very solid.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
What I found crazy, like I said, like I keep alluding to this because we didn't know anything about it. And I thought it was a beautiful love story about these people just caring about each other.
Right.
And it's like almost like finding out that like Romeo and Juliet didn't die the way they did, and they got just hit by like a runaway like horse carriage.
Or no, they didn't really die. They snuck away and they're living somewhere.
Right.
That would be closer to the how far off it is.
Right. And then they both hit puberty.
Yeah.
And realized they didn't like
and
each
then
other.
That happened. Yeah.
And then they didn't like each other, and they got divorced.
Yes.
I want to see that.
And that's
I want to see that movie. I'd be okay with that.
And it's the true story. You can market it that way.
Exactly.
And then somewhere there, like King Arthur comes out.
Yeah.
There was actually that Clive Owen movie. I don't know if you remember that movie called Arthur, and they said it was like the way that the trailer played. It actually said something to the effect of, the untold true story of King Arthur. I'm like, he's completely made up. That's like saying the untold truth story of Santa Claus. And you're like, wait a minute.
Now that one I want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then you would have to go to like what, Coca-Cola for that?
Do they own him now?
Well, that's who created Santa Claus, the way that we see him today.
Oh, the way that we see him. Okay.
Yeah. So like,
I like the thing recently that said that Santa Claus's tomb was excavated. Came across that accidentally.
Oh, they mixed him up with Santa Claus. I saw one time in Hallmark. I saw one time in Hallmark one of those like little statue things, and it was Santa Claus looking down on baby Jesus, and I'm like, somebody's gonna think that's true.
Oh wow.
And somebody might get annoyed at that one. A couple
Yeah.
of anyhow. So the whole thing was like Hollywood does what it does, and it's like I totally know it, I understand it, but the flip side is I deal with people every single day that throw things out there like, well, I know this is true about the Marstons or about this, and I'm like, well, except for that it's not true. So I'm already used to this, but this was taking it to a whole new level.
Oh yeah, they made a movie out of the whole new level.
Exactly. It's like there was an incredibly bad book out a few years ago that people still are learning is not accurate,
That's
and
the one by
now it's a
Jill, right?
movie.
That's the
What was
one
it?
by that woman Jill, right?
Yeah. So it's like I'm so accustomed to it, and as a matter of fact, with this movie, that was some of the people saying, and this is unfortunately typical of how things go. People would say, oh, well, it's based on a Lepore book and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, to begin with, no, she never, ever came up with this story in that book. She came up with some bad stories, but this wasn't one of
Now,
them.
was that book? Was that the Secret History of Wonder Woman? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the one. That's the one.
that came out what about
A
three
couple
or four years
years.
ago? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it goes back a few years.
What was that? I never read that book, but I just kind of heard about it. But did anybody at all like approach the family and said like, hey, what's the true story so that we could actually write this?
Okay, well, here's the deal. As far as this movie goes, no,
Mm-hmm.
most definitely. And Angela Robinson was very clear on that in her interview. Thank God she was honest on that, or I would still have people going, oh, no, you just don't know anything. I'm
Right.
like, "Yeah, okay. But thankfully, Angela was honest, and she said that she didn't want to talk to the family because she wanted to go with her own imaginings,
Oh
basically.
boy.
So at least she was honest at that. I mean, it was a little late, but at least she was then when she was put on the spot, you know? So
Well,
give her points for that.
Yeah.
well, it's kind of hard to say she did reach out and then she put the movie she put out. That would have been way worse if you can imagine
Well,
that.
the thing with it was that she said that and the question the way it was phrased was she did consciously choose to not talk to the family ahead of time. Now there have been a couple of response things out there which are a little misleading, where it's like, oh, I tried to reach out to Christie both like directly and through intermediaries, and the directly is not
Mm-hmm.
true. The through intermediaries was true, and the first one was in July. I don't think you're going to change the movie by talking to someone after it's done.
That would have been that would have been a really short movie.
Yeah, it's like, but the only thing is, maybe they wouldn't have done the marketing if I had, at that point in time, I was actually at San Diego Comic-Con, and a friend emailed me and said, it's like she forwarded me an email that had been sent to her by Angela, and she said, she wasn't real thrilled with the entire thing, and she did not endorse the movie in any way. But I mean, this is when I'm at San Diego Comic-Con and I'm getting the email and going, well, to begin with, that's kind of silly. But to end with, I'm kind of busy.
Yeah.
And the second one was just, maybe 2 weeks ago, if it was that. And
wow.
it was through an even more circuitous like method. Someone that she knew that's kind of working with a project on someone who is a friend of mine, and and this is someone who if you know me, you would know that it can take 20 phone calls before I actually return one. That it's a common complaint in the family, so this is the kind of thing. So the woman, my friend, tried to get me. I finally talked to her. She told me what was up, and I said, yeah, okay. I would love to see the movie. I would love to see the movie with Angela Robinson right there so we can discuss it face to face
Oh,
afterwards.
right on.
So yeah, I'd love to see the movie with her. You know, and it's really terrible. I know it sounds like well, yeah, I would bite her head off for this, but the flip side of it is I actually think I would like her. I've seen bits and
Hmm.
pieces of her interviews and everything, and she seems very interesting and everything. Her choice in how to handle this was dead wrong, but it's not something, you can't hold that stuff against people for their lifetime.
Right.
Right.
It's like she messed up. That's all there is to it. She just plain messed up.
It's
But
funny
it's
that
not like I hate the woman or something. It's like
I
fine.
wonder.
it's.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's funny how she was creating a movie based on a true story about about Wonder Woman, and then like didn't do things as Wonder Woman would have done them.
Do you?
Yeah, truth is kind of a big part of Wonder
Right.
Woman, and truth just was like, boy, was that kicked to the curb.
I.
Yeah, it's not called the lasso of based on truth.
I like that. Very good one.
So tell us. I want to hear. I want to hear a lot about your grandma because, like, I'm watching the movie, and to me, she was the most interesting character out of the three. And I just want to hear, like, do you have any kind of like really cool, like, notable memories with her? And was I mean, Wonder Woman something you guys like would talk about once in a while, or was it just normal relationship?
We and it depends on what you mean. What's normal? Here's the thing with Graham. Just to give you a little bit of background on
Mhm.
her, she was born in
Yeah.
1893. She lived 100 years, and she went out there and got 3 degrees. Went on, did like all anything. She didn't let being a woman be in the way of anything.
Mm.
She just like went out and she got done what needed to be done. She did. She was just amazing and extremely intelligent, very positive, and very, very much, self-competent, determined, but never not like a grace. Try again. Aggressive or like that type of like never in other people's faces ever.
Hmm.
She was very fair with everyone, but she simply didn't let things get in her way. So when I was growing up, I've been in Connecticut basically my whole life,
Hmm.
and Graham at the time lived in an apartment in New York City. So when I was 3, we would go down to visit Graham, and I'd go in and I'd say hi, and then I'd run down the hall and go to the bookcase that was loaded with these big fat volumes of the original comic books bound into books, and I'd grab a book and lay on her bed and read all day.
Oh wow.
So like that was typical. And she and Dots were out in Arizona and then Virginia and everything, and we were in constant touch. There were always letters and everything going back and forth, and phone calls and whatnot. But it wasn't until I was 18, out of the house, in my own space with my husband, or who would become my husband, and basically had the space. She would come out, like she'd come out. It started out whatever it was the first time she was going to come out and visit for like 4 days or whatever. Well, the 4 days turned into 3 weeks, and then she came back. She did this constantly. So I know Graham not as a little kid. I mean, I knew her as a little kid, but that's a different
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
I know Graham as an adult, and the reason that she would come up and then stay forever, and like it was awesome, is because we used to sit up like BSing half the night. This was what we
I love
did,
that.
and we'd talk about anything and everything. Wonder Woman would only come up because of like, oh, if those silly people at DC are doing this to her now, kind of thing, most of the time. Well, at that point in time, Wonder Woman was going through not a good stage in her life, shall we say, until the Linda Carter TV show started,
Yes.
and
Right.
that took it back to the original one. Oh, sorry about that. I'm getting like update notices, which is why you're getting strange ringing sounds. Sorry. Anyhow, I love computers.
I know.
Uh, so as far as Graham and memories, there are no little short memories. This is like she was just an amazing human being, just amazing. And to me, Graham and Wonder Woman are one and the same. And so I never, like, Wonder Woman was just part of the family to me,
Yeah.
and that was Graham. So yeah, I have lots of great memories of Graham.
Wow.
And it's not some, little old lady when I was a little kid. It was as an adult. Her attitude and her just like extreme clarity in thinking. It's beyond intelligence. She was a natural problem solver. She could find ways of, to handle things. All she had to do was think about it a little bit. But that's one of the things that since you made me think about that, there are a lot of people who do not know me even a little bit, who were under the assumption that somebody would find it terrible and offensive that their grandparents were, they had this thing going on and all this. Well, to begin with, if they had, it would have been more power to them. It's just that they didn't.
Right.
And as far as Graham went, that was one of those things we hit on more than once. Was, we'd look at things that were going wrong in the world and try and figure like the better way, but just like, now this is happening. And one of the things was like the silly ass stuff that people would be thinking about, oh, sex is a bad thing, and oh my God, gay people, oh my, anything. It was just like, we shared the attitude of, ain't nobody's business but my own.
Yeah.
If it's like consenting adults, they should be able to do whatever they damn well please. And we were totally together on that. And she got along extremely well with my very gay friends. So, so it's like, the whole thing of a grandchild reacting badly because of the idea of like, oh my God, her grandmother might have been gay. It's like, well, you're putting your own thought process on me if that's what you're thinking.
Right.
Because what would be wrong with having your grandmother be gay? What is the big deal?
Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Yeah.
If anything, it might teach you how to persevere a little bit more from the bigotry.
Yeah. And there was there was a woman in the family who was a lesbian. So she could have had an honest story and used the Marston name and the Wonder Woman name. Obviously, Marston and Wonder Woman was the key to selling.
Right.
But she could have had a true story, and it would have been pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know how they would have tied the SMN into it.
No, they couldn't have gotten that one. That one wouldn't have worked.
Just to make it exciting. I mean, it's
yeah.
So, obviously, Wonder Woman has been huge in your life, and you name dropped something before, which was the Linda Carter one. And actually, there's two comic book characters that I remember that impacted me growing up because of the TV shows. The crappy Spider-Man one, where they would fling like the web and it was just like rope.
Right.
And then it was the Linda Carter one, the Linda Carter Wonder Woman. And I remember that show specifically more than anything. I remember the cartoonesque intro, the music, the huge trumpets coming in, her spinning around. I remember everything about that show. And so you said that until they brought out that show that it started to embody Wonder Woman again, right?
Yes, it did.
So can you talk a little bit about, before we usually tell everybody that we not Facebook, but we internet stalk you, the interviewers or the interviews. So we make sure we try to find as much information as possible so we kind of know what we're talking. Trying to pretend that we're smart.
Right.
So when I Googled
internet stalk, yes.
Yeah. I saw a bunch of pictures with you and Linda Carter.
Oh, so jealous.
Yeah, but my 6-year-old self and 39-year-old self are extremely jealous.
She's awesome.
How has she been? Was like that's when they were creating the TV show. Do you remember any kind of interaction that way?
No,
or it was until years later.
No. I don't. Yeah, Graham didn't even meet her. I know she didn't meet Graham, so Graham wasn't involved in that. The thing is, the TV show, they had just tried and failed with another one where they were doing, the same stuff they try and do with comics. It's like, oh, bringing Wonder Woman to the modern age and making this relevant to today, and it totally flopped. So what they did was went back to the original comics, and I mean original, and did the TV show based on that and got Linda for the part. And as far as Linda Carter goes, my grandmother was very happy with what they were doing with the show. Again, anything that goes back to the original character. Wonder Woman was written by a psychologist, not somebody who just wrote action stories.
Right.
There was a reason behind it, and so long as you keep her with her character, she'll be around forever because people want that character.
Yes.
But to go back to the Linda Carter end of things, when I started helping my father out with his, what became the museum website, the whole thing, oh my God, he adored Linda Carter and had not been able to connect to her, and to get in touch.
Every male my age was intrigued by Linda Carter.
Your age and most every age. Yes. Yes. Linda, definitely. But here's what was great is that I had a friend who was out in LA, and one way or the other, he managed to make it so that when she was playing, she was doing a show at Mohegan Sun, which is not just a couple hours away from us. And it was arranged that after her show, we would meet her. And that did happen. And one of the things that came out is she was mad at her people for not passing through like letters that Dad had sent. It's like, you know what? Unless they know comic history, why would they know that this guy was any different than every other guy out there sending letters? But anyhow, that led to her coming down to the house and checking out the museum, but mostly coming to visit and chat and whatnot. Like a couple weeks later or whatever. And I'm going to add something. Celebrity really doesn't mean anything to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was not until I had seen more than a few, like interviews and whatnot with her, both written and then little clips, because Wonder Woman fans that I'm friends with would send me these things. And the more I paid attention, this is why my friend in California, when he said, have you ever met? I said, no, but I think I would like to meet her because she does seem like she's a really decent human being. And that's the whole thing. She was like born to play Wonder Woman. She didn't even have to act. That is so much her nature. And I had kind of thought that might be the case from the interviews. And when I met her, it was totally confirmed.
Yeah.
So she's just awesome. She's incredible.
I was going to say, like, when they casted her, she was perfect, just as how like Christopher Reeve was perfect as Superman. I mean, they chose two really, really, embodied those characters, and also their alter egos or their aliases, whatever. They did a really good job, doing, her being Diana and him being, Clark Kent and all that. So they did a very good, alter ego. So yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, and everything. It's too bad that she hasn't done a lot of stuff over the years, but she'll always be, Wonder Woman. I mean, first and foremost.
Well, the thing is, she's a singer, and she was a singer before she did her acting stuff. She did do a few other acting pieces, but she was a singer, and she is a singer. I went up there, it's like because we were going to meet her, and Dad, oh my God, Dad was so happy. And I was very much looking forward to seeing if in person she would be as she came off in the interviews, and she is even more so. But when we went up there, all right, I might be a little bit of, skeptic, but I went up thinking I was just going to have to like sit there and like do a smile and nod through her performance and everything. And like, oh God, this is not going to be good because she has a different choice in music than what I might listen to. Because I just saw some songs mentioned, but I never watched anything of her performing. She was up on stage. I'm I'm not kidding. When I say my jaw dropped, I mean it. I mean, my mouth fell open. I was just could not believe what I was seeing. She's a great singer and she is a great performer. That audience is, they feel like they're up on stage with her. She's so warm. She just brings everyone in and she's so talented. So believe me, as far as like it's a shame she didn't do more acting, well, that's because she's a singer and she's damn good at it. So it's like, yeah, it might have been, it'd be good. And even now where she popped up in the
Supergirl.
Supergirl,
Mm-mm.
and that was funny as hell. Did you catch the name on that? Olive Marsden.
Oh, that was
A
her name?
definite.
Oh, no way.
The president was Olive Marsden, so they took Dotsie's
Holy
name,
shit.
Olive, and almost said Marston. So that was funny as hell.
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
with a sense of humor did that.
Yeah.
I appreciated that one. But anyhow, as far as Linda goes, she was and is a natural, and I since have met. It wasn't until last year that I met Shannon Farnan and Susan Eisenberg.
Mm.
And they are both, I'm not sure if you're familiar. Shannon was the first voice of Wonder Woman for Super Friends.
Yes.
And then came Linda Carter doing the TV show. And then came Susan Eisenberg doing Wonder Woman in Justice League.
Justice League. Okay.
And you got the same exact thing there. These women are just naturals.
Incredible.
I mean, it's like who they are, and they're fans. I totally undervalued the voice actors all these years. I hadn't even realized the impact they have. Their fans are exactly the same as Linda's are with her. It's like these people. It's like they are Wonder Woman to their
Right.
fans.
Exactly.
And it's like, it's amazing. But again, you hit on these people that are, there they are. It's so perfect. It's a natural part of them. And then they have them acting Wonder Woman. Good choice. And on the, for Gal, I only met her face to face, like very briefly a couple times. But I will definitely comment about Patty Jenkins, who I've had a lot more exchange with. She, if you wanted to ask me who she reminds me of, I would say she reminds me of Graham.
Wow.
So she's a natural.
Wow.
She's amazing. Oh my God, that woman is just amazing. But she really does remind me of. It's like if you could take her and put her in a movie and have her playing Graham, then you'd have a true story. Seriously. It's like, Patty, would you mind like just stepping away from your extremely busy nonstop schedule of directing these movies and just like come play this role for me?
That'll be the director's cut of the Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. So you said you've had plenty of conversation with Patty. How did that start? Did her people trying to contact your people?
No, not at all.
Before or after the movie came out?
None of the above. It was actually kind of funny. I had been more than a little bit nervous about where the Wonder Woman movie, what was going to happen with that.
All of us were.
Yeah, well, particularly after that. Thank God it didn't get picked up TV thing they had tried doing. Thank God it didn't get picked up.
The David E. Kelly one.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Terrible.
that was.
Have you
like,
seen it?
Yes, I did, and it would have been like very bad for Wonder Woman for people who didn't know her.
Yeah, it was like Tony Stark. They toned her into Tony Stark.
It was terrible.
Yeah,
but
it was horrible.
Meanwhile, after that, I was kind of going, oh God, how is this going to work? And then they put out all the publicity about Gal, and everyone was like, I'm like going, oh God, where are we going with this? And then I got a note, an email from Linda, and she said, I just talked to Patty Jenkins, and she feels the same way about Wonder Woman as we do. And I went, oh, good.
Oh, cool.
This is good.
Yeah.
So I already had that in my head. I mean, for Linda to say that, basically it was like, okay, there's hope kind of thing going on. And then it actually is kind of funny. I had gone out. Susan Eisenberg asked me to come out to LA and go on a panel with her. And because it was Susan Eisenberg, I mean, now I love Susan. But then I had already respected Susan. So because she was asking, even though I'd never been to LA and I really thought, oh God, do I really want to get up on a panel? It was like, okay, great. No, I'll do it. I'll do it. And it turned out to be a wonderful thing. That's how I met Shannon as well, at the same Comic-Con. Anyhow, I just completely lost track of what I was saying.
Well, I was gonna.
So no, I do know what it was. I do know what it was.
Okay.
Because I was going to be out there, I looked online on information on the panel on the Comic-Con site, and I saw Patty Jenkins listed on the panel.
That's crazy.
And I went, oh, well, that's what I said. I said, that's crazy. But I thought it was weird because it's not a giant con. So because I had her email, because of Linda, I just sent off a note and said, hey, I see that we're going to be on the same panel. I want to do basically a Wonder Woman dinner during some night at the con, and would you join us?
Oh, that's so cool.
And she sent back a thing saying, I'm not in LA. I'm not on that panel, but now I want to be because I want to come join you. So because of a mistake that we'll be nice and call it a mistake that the con put in that Patty Jenkins was going to be on that panel. They must have been selling tickets like crazy on that one.
Oh yeah.
But anyhow, because of the mistake, that's why I sent her a note. And, we emailed back and forth. She wasn't even, I don't think she was even in the United States at that point in time. But we emailed back and forth a couple of times. And then when Wonder Woman was doing her short-lived stint as a UN ambassador, I don't know if you caught that one. Were you aware of that? This is last year.
It's in the comic book.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, she was anyhow. There was a big thing at the UN where she was basically like being, however you say, inducted, whatever.
Right.
And Patty was there. Obviously, Linda was there, Gal was there, Patty was there. So that's when I physically met both of them for the first time, like the face-to-face thing.
Oh wow, that's crazy. That's nuts.
And then there was that, and actually, I thought maybe and I saw her at the movie premiere. But I'll tell you, when these things are out there where it's so much of it is publicity and everything, we both have exactly the same reaction. Waiting for the time when we can just sit down and BS without having to worry about, it's like there's so many people that, I mean, who doesn't want to meet Patty Jenkins? Okay, so it's not something where she can't just like blow people off. So,
no.
So one of these days, but anyhow, I have been back and forth with her. As I said, we've met face to face a couple of times, fairly briefly, but have exchanged emails, on numerous occasions. And I can tell you from that first one that I sent her, inviting her to dinner, not knowing she wasn't part of the panel, I was going, whoa, I really think she's like amazing. And she had sent things back in there, and it's like I knew as soon as I was like talking to her via email or face-to-face directly, I trusted what Linda said completely, because Linda and I are on exactly the same page as far as Wonder Woman goes.
Yeah.
But when I started interacting, when I started to get to know Patty a little bit, she knows Wonder Woman. There was no question in my mind. So when I went to see the movie, and that was at the Hollywood premiere, I went in hopeful because of her attitude, not having any idea what the script was that she had no control over, not knowing anything about it, not knowing how Gal would do, not knowing anything about the other actors. And it wasn't until I sat there and watched it that I discovered she doesn't just get Wonder Woman. She isn't just a Wonder Woman herself. She's a freaking amazingly talented director, which I didn't even know. Well, it was mind blowing.
We've watched all the DC movies, over the last 40 years, and I could tell you, like going into that movie, we were extremely nervous because we got Man of Steel, we got Batman versus Superman, then we got Suicide Squad, all three of which any of our listeners know out there, we do not like those movies.
Yeah.
And mostly because
I've heard that a lot, and the only one that I tried to watch was Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, you're talking about these are the three biggest heroes on the superheroes on the planet in comic books, and yeah, Marvel's doing their thing, but Spider-Man's really the only one that's mostly well known. You know, as far
before
as
the MCU was created.
Right.
So Wonder Woman came out, and we're thinking, oh my god, like I really hope and pray they got this thing right. And,
what are they gonna do?
Yeah, and I walked out. I mean, I almost had tears in my eyes when that whole No Man's Land thing happened.
Yeah,
I was just unfucking believable.
Yes, it was. It was.
And so, yeah, well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you watched it and went, oh, okay, good, thank God. You know.
Oh, it was beyond good. That's what I knew that Wonder Woman was safe in her hands, but I also didn't know. I knew that Patty isn't somebody that someone could just walk on.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is that she has bosses. I mean, it's like there are things that would not be her choice, and that unfortunately would have been part of the job.
Yeah.
But I knew as soon as I saw the movie, and it was kind of funny, saw the movie, and after it was over, ran into, by fluke, the friend that had come out with me to watch the movie had run into a guy in the lobby who saw us departing from the same motel that he had departed from, and saw us like getting in and going, and he said something to Dave at the time. So one way or the other, talking to this guy, it turns out it's Patty's uncle. And
cool.
I just was saying, it's like, you have to be so proud of her. And I'm thinking that she fought to make this happen, because this is way beyond my best expectations. And the guy said, it's like, yeah, she didn't be home very much, but when she did, we heard about some of those battles.
I bet.
I would love to be a fly on the wall on those.
Yeah, but that's just it. She's another one. She is so positive. She's positive. She's determined. She's not going to do anything terrible to get her way doing something, but she is going to do the right thing. And that's that same kind of Wonder Woman attitude. That's a Graham attitude.
Wow.
Just really quickly, because I know we're getting close to the hour here. To follow up on that, I just listened to a podcast with Patty Jenkins on it, and we basically all wonder the movie that we got. We owe that to Richard Donner's Superman. She had watched as a kid growing up and really impact her, and she has waited all this time to do something like Superman, which is Wonder Woman. And
wow.
For years, they pushed her off. Like, I don't know how much you know about the backstory about it, but Patty Jenkins was attached to this project for a very long time. And they
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was in talks with Warner Brothers for a long time. It didn't become official until a few years ago, but she was in talks with Warner Brothers and DC for a long time to do a Wonder Woman movie, but she only wanted to do it in the sense of like this Richard Donner Superman version.
Right.
And
a good one.
Back on it. Yeah, and if not, and this is crazy, if not, if Batman v Superman and Man of Steel had been actually good movies, I don't think we get the Wonder Woman that we get now.
You're correct.
So
you're entirely correct. I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Because they were pushing her, they didn't want her to do her film until everybody's like, why the fuck are these two superheroes killing everybody? And then all of a sudden, Patty Jenkins' spin on the character, or not spin, or true origins of the character, was like, okay, we should do that one now.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, they had a different director who left for whatever circumstances, and Patty was like, this last-second save. I don't even remember who the director was that was supposed to be doing the
why they left.
I've forgotten.
But I think it coincided with why Patty wasn't attached originally. I think she was pregnant.
No idea.
I thought I heard that on the podcast. But regardless, I really truly believe, like, ironically, because we got the shitty, first two movies, we got the truer Wonder Woman that we would have gotten or would have not gotten had those first two movies been any good at all.
I totally agree with you on that. because the thing is, it just feels like keep like putting out the same thing over and over again. Something works once. Okay, maybe we should use it on everything. Well, maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah,
It's
because
like
every
maybe
character.
that's not a good idea.
Yeah, because Superman's not Batman.
Yeah,
So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that movie, I did have I had already heard like people literally from all over the world telling me that as they were snoozing through that movie and Wonder Woman came out, people in the audience that weren't even Wonder Woman people, like, were suddenly cheering.
yeah, because she was the best part in that movie.
Yeah.
Well,
My favorite part is when she smirks.
oh yeah, but they've done massive reshoots with Justice League, and I think they're going to have a lot more Wonder Woman in it because she's everybody's like favorite now. So
Yeah.
I hope that movie is really good. And there are the one in particular. I usually can't tell one actor from another, and I'm sitting here trying to remember the Momoa, I think.
Jason
Jason
Momoa.
Momoa, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I'm hoping that character is fun.
it's an
And
interesting
there's a
pick.
young guy that I met first at Rhode Island Comic Con and then out at the movie thing, and he plays the. Forgive me with names. You should see what I do to the museum. Oh, and then some guy that's got this like half face that's red. Anyhow, that guy, Cyborg maybe.
Cyborg.
But anyhow,
Yeah.
Having met the actor a couple of times, I'm betting that character is going to be a fun one because he's like a ball of energy.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
hope
Jason
so.
Momoa. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm not sure that's how. I'm not sure how the avid Aquaman fans are going to take it, but we'll see.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. I really hope that this movie is a good one. I hope that there was enough learned about not to copy old, like, too dark things anymore. Just stop that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do hope Justice League is a fun movie and a
So
success.
we're gonna end the podcast now with what we call the big finish. It's
The
three.
big finish.
Yep.
Yes. 3 questions. Everybody gets them. Everybody that we've ever interviewed has gotten these questions. So I already kind of know this answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. All-time favorite character can be from any genre.
Oh, get out! I mean, you don't even have to finish the sentence. I think I can answer that. Do you think Wonder Woman might be my answer? Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's never happened before. We've never had the creators like kin on the show. Like we've never had Stan Lee's son on the show. Like
grandson. Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, exactly. We've never had the grandson on the show or anybody related.
I think it'd been funny if
Anybody.
she just said like cyborg or so, just some.
Yeah,
I
right.
guess some, like,
Or
Only
she
I'd
was
have to
like-
make up a name because I never remember names.
Or she was like, my favorite character all time
Galactus.
is Thor.
Yeah.
Not even a DC character.
Yeah, it's Marvel or Spawn.
Yeah.
Let me make up some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we got that one down.
Okay.
So if what kind of birthday gift would you give Wonder Woman?
I think world peace is hard to package, so I'm stumped there.
Yeah, I don't think you can wrap that up easily.
I don't think so. I think that would be a hard one to acquire. So that's it.
Maybe a new security system for her invisible jet.
Or one of those like clap to find it things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a globe light so you can find it at night.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, second question. What are you currently watching now as far as TV shows, either live or something you've recorded on the DVR? It could be any.
Oh, well, you're going to be really disappointed. I don't watch TV, so nothing.
Really? What about
Yeah,
okay? So
really.
what about like past in the past? What kind of TV shows?
Or Netflix, nothing?
For a while, yeah, a bunch of years ago, I was watching movies and whatnot, but there was a show that was on that entertained me. And it's funny because it just came up because there's a woman who is an actress from it, CC Pounder. What the hell is the name of it? Warehouse 13. That amused me.
Oh, Warehouse.
That goes way back. But I mean, I really don't watch TV. I tend to read. And right now I'm reading a great book, Comic-Con and the Business of Pop Culture by Rob Salkowitz.
That does not work with our follow-up question at
No,
all.
it doesn't. So you're SOL on that one. Sorry.
Well,
That's never happened before.
Well,
I don't watch TV.
Well, shoot. I guess I could go back to the Wonder Woman question, but what kind of eggs do you think Wonder Woman would like?
What kind of eggs?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hard boiled.
Ah, nice.
I was not expecting that answer.
I wasn't either.
I was thinking scrambled.
That's genius.
All right, last question here. What is your favorite all-time top 3 movies of all time?
Oh Lord. Okay, now you see, you don't understand my strange, since childhood, lack of memory and name retention. However, I can tell you things that have positively, because they ran through my head in recent times, amused the living hell out of me. To begin with, Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman is always going to be up there. So, take that as a given.
There you go.
Okay.
But here's where I have a really warped sense of humor. I've always said I come from the land of the easily amused. And I don't know if you've ever seen them. Have you ever seen Reefer Madness, the musical?
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry. I think it's freaking hysterical. And along the same thing, it's because we were talking about, some friends and I were talking about like really good movies. And I'm like, well, I kind of tend to lean towards the cult movies. Forbidden Zone, that the Elfman brothers they did that movie, the Elfman brothers that were Oingo Boingo. Are you familiar with? That's freak. It's just like,
dude, that's deep cuts. That's like, oh wow.
That is, yeah.
So
if you've never seen Forbidden Zone, you should get it. Again, this one again, of course, it's the Elfman brothers. So of course, there's plenty. It's definitely a musical with plenty of other things. But I mean, they have things like Hervé Villachez is the king of the underworld, and I mean, it's just
I've
freaking hysterical.
Yeah, I've heard of this movie. I've seen Reefer Madness. I remember watching that at a friend's house because they're really into theater and they love what is it, Rocky Horror Picture Show and stuff like that. So so I saw Reefer Madness. I have not seen Forbidden Zone, but I've heard a lot about it. Heard it's very, very out there.
Depending upon your sense of humor, it could suddenly become your favorite movie of all time.
I may have to check it out.
It's really, I mean, I positively recommend that everybody should see it. And they'll either go, oh my God, I'm never watching a movie with her, or, think it's great. One or the other.
You've given us a really interesting list, unlike anyone's ever given us. It's like going to the grocery store. It's like going to the grocery store and buying 3 completely weird items.
I could have warned you about that. Talking to me can be kind of unpredictable.
No, it was great. The last thing I want to end on is I don't know if you remember our logo, but we have stick figures in our logo. I hold a lightsaber. BJ holds
chainsaw
from
Evil Dead.
So every interview that we've ever,
I don't know if I saw your logo, but that's funny.
Every interview that we've ever done, we do a stick figure for the guests. So if you could just open your email, I sent it a few minutes ago, so hopefully it's there by now. And all I need you to do is just open up the attachment and tell me what you see.
Hang on.
It's not porn, so don't worry. It's
not.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I'm looking at my email. And unless you were sending me something, okay, there's one from you. Because I didn't think you were Medicare options or one-tack flashlight. Insanely bright military flashlight. Okay, more spam got through. Let me just mark my spam folder again.
Said you
and
like
then we'll get to it.
Trying to sell you Amway or something.
Oh, God. It doesn't stop.
This is it. I'm guessing she saw it.
Very good. I love it.
So as being a podcast, we're going to need you to describe it.
Yeah.
There's no describing that. No, that's up to you to describe. That seriously is like. Were you looking at like Facebook images?
I told you, internet stalk you. I
Yes,
was
you were doing
not
internet
lying.
stalking. This
Internet
is how
stalk.
people find me at Comic Cons. Okay, the sunglasses, and I'll tell you why I have those sunglasses on all the time. By the way, they're prescription glasses. If I wear my regular, current, everyday prescription glasses that I use for driving, they distort things, right? Well, these glasses that I wear all the time, it's not like who's hiding behind the Foster Grants. It's because I need the prescription. Well, that prescription, those glasses are so old. I had them on at my friend's baby shower. All right. Her baby is a doctor now.
Oh my.
So they're a little older, so they're easier on the eyes. And then the other thing, again, twisted mind, the robe, the blue robe with the white stars that I'm wearing all the time, that's actually a bathrobe. It's like, I mean, come on. I started to have.
I thought that was a Wonder Woman thing.
It is a Wonder Woman thing.
Okay.
It's a Wonder Woman silk bathrobe. But here's the thing: the reason that I got in the habit of doing that is I was going to a black tie event for the Boston area toy collectors club. Does this annual dinner, and it is black tie, and Dad was speaking at it, so of course that meant I was taking him up there and I was going to be with him, and I was like, okay, great, I've got this, very nice full length black typical sheath kind of dress, and I bought it in a thrift store for $2 so I could have something to wear over a bathing suit, but it was actually a very nice dress, but it's sleeveless, which I'm not going to wear. And after going through all sorts of things and actually getting something and not liking it, I said, oh, screw this, and I went down in the museum and I grabbed the bathrobe and wore that instead, and that was it. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing. Oh yeah, my quirks.
Well, I'm glad you like it.
That's really good, actually.
Would you like to plug anything? Plug your museum, plug the network that you
No, the museum is totally in chaos. I'm hoping that the one thing, Dad died in January, and the museum was in his house. So of course, that was great, but now my sister and her daughter and my mother live there, and I don't really like, oh, hey, Kara, we're going to go down to the museum and up to the museum. So right now it's kind of in limbo. It really should be a public museum. It always should have been, but it wasn't. That's not why it started. It was Dad's, what he loved having it there, so people would come and visit and look at it and be happy.
That's awesome.
So someday it'll go public.
You should reach out to Steve Sansweet and see how he started his museum. He's the #1 Star Wars collector in the world.
Oh God!
And see how he started his museum type thing. He's like a nonprofit, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is it would need to be a nonprofit, and the logistics of nonprofits, I immediately looked into it. But the one thing with them is that basically you do not have control over a nonprofit. And I have had enough times in my life where I've said, oh yeah, don't worry, that person's fine, and then had things change down the road where I wouldn't put myself in that spot. I wouldn't put the Wonder Woman stuff in that spot.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things, but hopefully it'll get worked out and it'll happen. But meanwhile, I don't have, wait. I do have something I want to plug. That is Wonder Woman. People constantly are asking me about, what we do. This is when I just found out how much people really do want to know about the Marstons. I didn't realize it until this movie was like this. But anyhow, there is nothing out there. There's not a book out there that is anything with accurate stuff or anything about the Marstons. But there is an incredible book out. It's Wonder Woman Psychology, Lassoing the Truth. That's where we snagged that Travis Langley and Mara Woods were the co-editors on that. Travis does a lot of these kind of things, and doing Wonder Woman was perfect. And I've known him for a few years, and he is a psychologist. And that Wonder Woman Psychology is the best book on Wonder Woman ever written. And included in it because it was Travis doing it. Graham had started writing her memoirs like way up in the tail end of her years, and she'd like jot things down, and I'd like type it into my hot new Apple IIgs computer that had like word processing software in it.
Oh, wow.
And edit it. And she's like, oh, wow, that would have been nice instead of typewriters. But anyhow, she had started doing those, and those are included in Travis's book. But that book, Wonder Woman Psychology, is just, I love that book. And I think anyone who's into Wonder Woman will totally enjoy it. And don't think that it's a textbook style. It is not. It happens to be that it is primarily, psychologists and really good Wonder Woman people like Mike Madrid that were contributing. But it's just it's just a great read. So there's my plug. That's the one to go for.
That sounds
awesome. Great.
Christie, thank you so much for doing this. I know it's like got to be almost midnight where you're at, right?
It might be. Life goes on.
Well, thank you for all your patience, and thank you for spending the amount of time that you did with us.
I've totally enjoyed myself. It's like you guys are great. And not only that, I learned about Zencaster.
We did too, apparently, somehow.
Yes, you did.
Well, awesome.
Firefox.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this was Chew on This interviews Christie Marston. I'm BJ.
Vic.
Until next time, folks, chew on that.
Later.